Have you ever wondered why some prayers seem to work while others fall flat? Perhaps you've found yourself questioning if there's actually a method to effective prayer, or if it's all just wishful thinking in the end. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. That prayer isn't random at all, but follows specific principles that can be understood and applied. Consciously, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform your relationship with prayer and spiritual practice. When most people think of prayer, they imagine pleading with a distant deity, hoping their requests will be granted like spiritual lottery tickets. But what if prayer is actually something far more profound, a scientific process based on universal laws that govern thought and consciousness? Scientific prayer isn't about magical thinking or superstition. It's about understanding and consciously applying the principles that connect your thoughts to the fabric of reality itself. Has this ever happened to you? You've prayed intensely for something, feeling almost desperate, yet nothing changed. Or perhaps the opposite. You held a calm, unwavering certainty about something, and it manifested with surprising ease. The difference lies in understanding that true prayer operates through spiritual techniques based on laws of thought. Just as gravity works, whether you believe in it or not, these principles of consciousness respond to how you use them, not merely to what you're asking for. Think about it this way. Our thoughts are not just fleeting electrical impulses in our brains. They're energetic patterns that interact with the world around us. When we align our thinking with divine principles, harmony, abundance, love, truth, we're not merely wishing for something external to change. We're actually participating in the creative process that shapes our experience. This isn't about manipulating reality through positive thinking. It goes much deeper. The conscious use of thought in scientific prayer activates something profound, a divine response that works through natural laws, not against them. What's fascinating is that throughout history, across different spiritual traditions, mystics and sages have described this process in different languages, but pointing to the same fundamental truth. Consciousness creates reality, and prayer is the conscious direction of that creative power. Have these perspectives on spiritual healing resonated with you? Join our community of seekers by subscribing to continue this journey of remembrance together. Has something in your life seemed impossible to change through ordinary means? Perhaps you've tried everything, yet that relationship, health condition, or financial situation remains stubbornly fixed. This might be precisely where understanding the science of prayer could open doors you didn't even know existed. The question now becomes, what exactly happens when we pray with this understanding? And how can we align ourselves with these divine principles to activate meaningful change in our lives? The answers might surprise you. Prayer isn't what most people think it is. We've been conditioned to view it as something we do in religious buildings or as a last-ditch effort when we're desperate. I've tried everything else. Guess I'll pray now. But what if I told you that prayer, when understood correctly, is actually the highest activity the human mind can engage in? This isn't about following religious protocols or reciting memorized words. True prayer is about connecting with the infinite intelligence that governs the universe. It's a mental state of alignment rather than a verbal petition. When you grasp this distinction, everything changes about how you approach your connection with the divine. The most powerful prayers don't come from your lips, but from the deepest regions of your consciousness. They emerge from a mental place where you're completely aligned with universal truth. This is where the transformation begins, when you stop seeing prayer as something you do and start recognizing it as something you become. Genuine prayer stems from a profound recognition of what's truly possible. It's affirming the good that exists beneath any contrary appearance. When challenges arise in your life, whether health issues, financial struggles, or relationship problems, The natural human tendency is to focus on the problem, but authentic prayer shifts your attention to the solution that already exists in the invisible realm of potential. Now, I want to go even deeper into this mindset shift. Think about what happens when you enter a dark room and flip the light switch. You don't negotiate with the darkness or beg it to leave. You simply introduce light, and the darkness naturally disappears. This illuminates the essence of effective prayer. You're not begging an external deity to change reality. You're aligning your consciousness with the truth that transcends appearances. This journey toward authentic prayer requires us to release the mental barriers we've constructed through years of conditioning. Many of us carry hidden beliefs that sabotage our prayers before they even begin. We might secretly believe we're unworthy of divine attention, that God is too busy for our small problems, or that some cosmic scorecard determines whether our prayers are answered. The revelation that changed my understanding was recognizing that prayer isn't about changing God's mind, it's about changing mine. The infinite intelligence that orchestrates the cosmos doesn't need convincing. It's already configured for your highest good. Prayer is the process of removing the mental and emotional obstacles that block your awareness of this truth. When you approach prayer from this perspective, you enter what mystics have called the secret place, a state of consciousness where you're no longer petitioning for things to be different, but acknowledging the perfect pattern that already exists. This is why many spiritual traditions emphasize gratitude as a central element of prayer. Gratitude isn't just polite, it's powerful. It acknowledges that what you're seeking is already present. This understanding completely transforms how we navigate life's challenges. Instead of seeing difficulties as punishments or random bad luck, we can approach them as invitations to deeper prayer, opportunities to align more fully with truth. Every obstacle becomes a doorway to greater spiritual awakening when viewed through this lens. The impact of this approach extends far beyond your individual circumstances. As you cultivate this prayer consciousness, you become a living prayer, a walking embodiment of divine truth in action. Your presence itself becomes healing and transformative for those around you. This is the hidden power that great spiritual teachers have demonstrated throughout history. If you valued this exploration of our inherent wholeness, subscribe to receive more insights on spiritual healing directly in your feed. If something within you resonates with this perspective, drop the word alignment in the comments below. I'd love to know who else is exploring this deeper understanding of prayer in their own journey. What most people completely miss about prayer is that it's actually a scientifically sound method for manifesting real change in your life. I'm not talking about the kind of prayer where you're begging some external force to grant your wishes. I'm talking about a systematic mental process that actually works with the laws that govern our mind. When you form a clear mental image of what you want, you're essentially programming your subconscious mind. This isn't mystical, it's psychological. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's real. That's why elite athletes use visualization techniques before competitions. They're essentially praying their way to better performance. The affirmation stage is equally critical, but most people get this wrong too. It's not about repeating empty words. When you affirm with feeling, you're creating an emotional blueprint that your subconscious mind recognizes as important. Emotion is the energy that powers transformation. Without it, your words are just noise. Then comes what might be the most crucial step of all: release. This is where the journey becomes counterintuitive for many. We've been conditioned to believe that control equals power, but scientific prayer works on the opposite principle. When you release your desire with complete faith, you're signaling to your subconscious mind that the work is done. This mental letting go creates space for manifestation to occur naturally, without the interference of doubt or anxiety. Let's break this down into the fundamental components. Your thoughts are prayers in themselves. Every time you think, you're sending energy into the universe and into your own subconscious mind. This isn't mystical talk. It's how our psychology works. Your desires are concentrated forms of thought energy. They have direction, intensity, and purpose. Your subconscious mind is perpetually receptive. Unlike your conscious mind, which filters and questions, your subconscious accepts whatever is presented to it with sufficient emotion and repetition. It's like fertile soil. It doesn't judge the seeds you plant, it simply grows them. The concept of release is really about trust. It's about understanding that once you've programmed your subconscious mind, trying to micromanage the process only creates resistance. Think about it like planting a garden. Once you've put the seeds in the ground, constantly digging them up to check on their progress only disrupts their growth. What makes this approach so powerful is that it bridges the gap between spiritual practice and psychological science. The revelations that come from understanding the true nature of effective prayer can transform not just what you achieve, but who you become in the process. Your mindset shifts from one of lack and neediness to one of confident expectation. Behind the scenes of every great achievement is this same process. Whether they called it prayer or not, history's greatest innovators, leaders, and creators all practiced some version of this mental technique. They held a vision, infused it with conviction, and trusted in its unfolding. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens in our brain when we engage in this scientific form of prayer. The neurological impact is fascinating and explains why some people seem to manifest their desires effortlessly while others struggle despite their best efforts. If what I've shared resonates with your own experiences, write in the comments. This explains everything. I'd love to know if you've noticed similar patterns in your life. When you fully grasp the extraordinary power of thought in shaping your reality, everything changes. The book of Job isn't just conveying ancient wisdom, it's revealing how thought operates as a sacred instrument for conscious creation. Think about it. Every invention, every building, every relationship began first as a thought in someone's mind before manifesting in physical form. This creative principle works constantly, not occasionally. It operates through us, whether we're aware of it or not, which is precisely why understanding this mechanism transforms your entire approach to life. Your mind is continuously broadcasting, sending signals into the universal field that then reflect back as your lived experience. Many of us have been raised with a fundamental misunderstanding about prayer and its relationship to this creative process. We've been conditioned to view prayer as something solemn and occasional, something we do in times of great need or in designated religious settings. This misconception has created confusion about our relationship with the divine, with God, or with whatever name you give to that higher intelligence. The limitation comes from thinking of prayer as separate from everyday thought. In reality, every thought is a prayer. Every mental image you hold, every word you speak to yourself, every assumption you make about life, these are all forms of communication with the creative forces of the universe. This continuous dialogue never stops, which means you're always in communion with the divine, whether you recognize it or not. What a profound revelation! This understanding completely dissolves the artificial boundary between the sacred and the secular. If every thought is a form of prayer, then every moment becomes an opportunity for divine connection and conscious creation. Your daily commute, your interaction with a co-worker, even washing the dishes, all of these become sacred spaces where you're actively co-creating with universal intelligence. This perspective shift brings tremendous responsibility, but also incredible freedom. It means you're not a helpless observer of your circumstances, but rather an active participant in their creation. The events of your life aren't random occurrences, but reflections of your predominant thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Your mind is continuously shaping your experience, whether towards struggle or abundance. The journey toward mastering this creative process begins with awareness. Most people think thousands of thoughts daily without noticing their quality or direction. They wonder why their circumstances don't change, while unconsciously thinking the same thoughts that created those circumstances in the first place. Breaking this cycle requires mindful attention to your mental patterns. When you start observing your thoughts without judgment, you gain the power to redirect them. This isn't about forced, positive thinking or denying real challenges. It's about consciously choosing which thoughts to nurture and which to release. Like a gardener tending to plants, you cultivate the mental seeds that will grow into your future experiences. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how the ancient wisdom in Job provides practical guidance for applying these principles in everyday life. The text offers specific insights about how thought becomes form and how we can align ourselves with universal laws to experience greater harmony and fulfillment. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's a practical roadmap for conscious living. If you're resonating with these ideas about the creative power of thought and prayer, type "I am a conscious creator" in the comments below. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what true prayer actually means in the context of conscious manifestation. Many of us have been conditioned to see prayer as asking, begging, or pleading, with a higher power to grant us favors or solve our problems. But what if the most powerful form of prayer has nothing to do with petition at all? True prayer is affirmation. It's declaring what already exists in the invisible realm and bringing it into physical form through your conscious recognition. When you affirm, "I am whole, I am abundant, I am loved," you're not asking for these qualities to be bestowed upon you someday in the future. You're acknowledging their eternal presence in the spiritual reality that underlies everything. Think about the revolutionary nature of this understanding. Instead of approaching life from a place of lack, always seeking, always wanting, you come from a place of completion, simply aligning yourself with the good that's eternally available. This transforms your entire relationship with manifestation. You're not creating abundance, you're tuning into the abundance that's intrinsic to the universe itself. This perspective represents a profound mindset shift. Most people spend their lives in an endless pursuit of what they believe they lack, creating a perpetual cycle of wanting without fulfillment. But when you understand that true prayer is recognition rather than request, you break free from this limiting paradigm. You begin to experience the liberation that comes with knowing that what you seek is already yours on the invisible plane of reality. Let's carry this understanding forward as we explore how our thoughts operate as seeds in the fertile soil of our subconscious mind. Just as a farmer plants seeds with the absolute expectation of a harvest, your thoughts, when planted with emotional intensity, will inevitably produce corresponding conditions in your life. The subconscious mind is completely neutral. It doesn't judge your thoughts as good or bad, helpful or harmful. It simply accepts what you repeatedly impress upon it, especially when those impressions carry emotional weight. Like seeds that must germinate in darkness before sprouting, your thoughts incubate in the hidden depths of your subconscious before manifesting as experiences in your visible world. This revelation about the nature of thought explains why casual thinking produces minimal results, while thoughts charged with feeling create powerful outcomes. The emotional component acts as the water and sunlight that nourishes the seed. Whether you're consciously aware of it or not, the thoughts you consistently hold with conviction are constantly shaping your reality. Consider how this principle has been operating behind the scenes throughout your entire life. Every condition you currently experience, from your relationships to your financial situation to your health, grew from seed thoughts you planted in the past. Some were planted consciously, others unconsciously, but all followed this immutable law of mental germination. The journey of transformation begins when you take ownership of this creative process. Instead of allowing random thoughts to take root in your mental garden, you become a conscious cultivator, carefully selecting what you allow to grow in the fertile soil of your mind. This isn't about controlling every passing thought, but about being mindful of what you water with your continued attention and emotional energy. As you apply these principles, you'll notice a fascinating evolution in your manifestation journey. The gap between thought and materialization begins to shrink. What once seemed like coincidence reveals itself as the natural unfolding of your dominant thought patterns. The external world increasingly becomes a mirror reflecting your internal landscape. If you've been nodding along as I've explained these concepts, and they resonate with something you've intuitively known but perhaps couldn't articulate, type in the comments, "The garden of my mind is now under conscious cultivation." Now, let me share with you a practical approach to working with these principles that few people understand, but that makes all the difference. Learning how to harness the power of thought isn't just about positive thinking. It's about creating a protected garden for your ideas to flourish. When I discovered this revelation, it transformed my approach to mental cultivation. You see, the superficial mind is like fertile soil that hasn't been properly tended. It receives valuable seeds of inspiration and potential, but then allows distractions, those persistent weeds, to choke out what could have been magnificent growth. Think about how many brilliant ideas you've had that simply vanished because your attention was pulled elsewhere. That text message notification, that sudden urge to check social media, or that wandering thought about tomorrow's meeting, these seemingly innocent diversions are actually thieves in the night, silently stealing away your creative potential. The journey toward mastery begins when we recognize these patterns and establish boundaries around our mental garden. What I've learned through both triumph and failure is that thought requires protection during its vulnerable early stages. Just as a farmer builds fences to keep out animals that would devour young plants, we must construct mental barriers against the constant bombardment of information competing for our attention. This isn't about isolation, it's about intentional cultivation. But here's where many people stumble on their path. Even with protection, thoughts can be poisoned from within. Fear and anxiety are like toxic soil conditions that prevent even the most promising seeds from taking root. I've watched countless brilliant people sabotage their own potential because they couldn't overcome the paralyzing grip of doubt. The hidden truth is that faith operates as the antidote to this poison. When I speak of faith, I'm not necessarily referring to religious belief, though that works for many. I'm talking about a deep, unwavering trust in possibilities, a conviction that transcends evidence and embraces potential. This kind of faith creates the optimal internal environment for thought to produce tangible, positive results. It's the difference between planting in rocky, acidic soil versus rich, nurturing earth. The transformation happens when we begin treating our thoughts with the same reverence a master gardener gives to rare seeds. Each idea deserves careful consideration, proper nourishment, and protection from both external distractions and internal sabotage. The mindset shift required is substantial, but the impact is immeasurable. I discovered that my own breakthrough moments always came after periods of protected thought, combined with unwavering faith in possibility. When I removed the anxiety of "what if it fails" and replaced it with "what amazing things might happen," the quality of my thinking improved dramatically. Ideas that once seemed fragile began to strengthen, taking on lives of their own and creating ripples I could never have anticipated. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining how these principles manifest in practical application. The journey from thought to reality follows specific patterns that, once recognized, can be deliberately employed rather than randomly experienced. Understanding these patterns reveals why some people consistently transform their thoughts into reality, while others remain trapped in cycles of unfulfilled potential. What's particularly fascinating is how this mental approach creates a cumulative effect. Each protected thought that grows to fruition strengthens your capacity for greater achievements in the future. It's not simply about individual ideas, it's about developing a thought ecosystem that naturally produces abundance. Let me know if you're tracking with these concepts by putting "guarding my garden" in the comments. If you're committed to protecting your thoughts from those sneaky distractions that steal your mental seeds. Many spiritual teachers from different faiths have understood this fundamental principle of mental impressions, that our thoughts don't just vanish into thin air. They become embedded within our subconscious mind, creating patterns and grooves that eventually manifest in our external reality. It's like planting seeds in a garden. Whether you plant roses or weeds, the soil doesn't discriminate. It simply grows what you've planted. This is where many people face a hidden truth in their spiritual journey. When negative thoughts continuously circulate in your mind, fears, doubts, resentments, they don't just create momentary discomfort. They become programmed into your subconscious, working silently below your awareness to create circumstances that match those vibrations. The subconscious doesn't judge what you feed it. It simply accepts the dominant thoughts and finds ways to express them in your external world. The transformation begins when you realize that this same mechanism works just as powerfully with positive thoughts. When you consistently fill your mind with thoughts of abundance, health, and loving relationships, these impressions sink deeper into the subconscious day by day. They become part of your mental framework, eventually manifesting as your physical reality. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what effective prayer really means in this context. Many people misunderstand prayer as merely asking for divine intervention or miracles that defy natural law. They pray desperately for outcomes while their minds remain filled with doubt and fear. But effective prayer operates through these mental laws we've been discussing. It's not about bypassing them. The most powerful prayers aren't desperate pleas for intervention, but rather affirmative statements that align with universal principles. When you pray with understanding, you're essentially directing your thought energy in a coherent, focused manner that resonates with your positive intentions. You're not begging an external power to override the system. You're working intelligently with the system itself. This revelation changes everything about how we approach our spiritual practice. Instead of praying against something, illness, lack, or problems, effective prayer focuses on the presence of what you desire, acknowledging it as already manifesting. This subtle shift represents a profound spiritual maturity that few discover. Your prayers become declarations of truth rather than requests for exception. The impact of this understanding is immense because it places tremendous responsibility in your hands. No longer are you waiting for external salvation. You're actively engaging with the creative process through your consistent thought patterns. This isn't about magical thinking, but about aligning your mental frequency with universal laws that respond to the nature of your consciousness. The journey from unconscious thinking to deliberate mental creation isn't always straightforward. There will be setbacks and moments when old thought patterns resurface, but with persistent effort, you begin to witness the connection between your inner world and outer experiences. You see how circumstances shift when you maintain disciplined thinking aligned with your desires rather than your fears. This principle applies regardless of your religious background or spiritual beliefs. The universal laws respond to the quality of your thoughts, not your theological position. What matters is the consistent impression you make upon your subconscious mind through repetitive thoughts charged with feeling and conviction. If you've been practicing affirmative prayer and positive thinking but haven't seen results, examine whether your conscious affirmations are being undermined by deeper subconscious beliefs. True transformation occurs when both levels of mind align with your highest vision. If this approach to spirituality makes sense to you, write "Conscious Creator" in the comments below. Now let's explore how to effectively reprogram those deeper subconscious patterns that might be working against your conscious intentions. The true subtlety of this universal law occurs when we recognize that everyone, regardless of their spiritual background or understanding, is already using the power of prayer in their daily existence. You don't need special training or religious affiliation to engage with this principle. Everything you think, verbalize, or emotionally charge becomes a form of prayer to the universe. The key revelation here is ensuring these unconscious prayers align with what you actually desire. When you constantly verbalize worry, fear, or lack, you're essentially placing an order with the cosmic kitchen for more of those very experiences. This is the hidden journey many of us find ourselves on, unconsciously praying for the very situations we're trying to avoid. It's like having a powerful manifestation tool in your hands, but accidentally pointing it in the wrong direction. I discovered this transformation in my own life when I began monitoring my speech patterns. I was shocked to realize how often my casual conversations centered around what I didn't want or feared might happen. "I hope I don't get sick," or "I can't afford to lose this opportunity," were statements I made without thinking, not realizing I was focusing my energy precisely on those unwanted outcomes. Jesus himself taught this principle with remarkable clarity when he said, "With what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again." This profound insight isn't merely spiritual advice, it's a practical instruction manual for reality creation. The measure you use, abundance or scarcity, love or fear, determines what you receive in return. This isn't punishment or reward, it's simply the mechanistic operation of consciousness interacting with the universe. When you approach life with thoughts of abundance, gratitude, and positive expectation, you're measuring life with a cup of in plenty. The universe, responding to this energetic signature, returns experiences that match this vibration. Conversely, when you measure life with thoughts of loss, lack, and limitation, these become the blueprints for your manifested reality. What's fascinating about this principle is how it transcends religious boundaries while appearing in various traditions. From the Buddhist concept of karma to the Hindu understanding of dharma to quantum physics observer effect, all point to this same underlying truth about the relationship between consciousness and reality. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how our unconscious beliefs often contradict our conscious desires, creating what psychologists call self-sabotage, but what spiritual teachers recognize as conflicting prayers. Many of us genuinely believe we want prosperity, health, and loving relationships, while simultaneously harboring deeply rooted beliefs about unworthiness, danger, or inevitable disappointment. These subconscious beliefs function as powerful prayers precisely because they carry emotional intensity. Think about it, which carries more energetic charge, your casual wish for abundance, or your deep-seated fear of poverty. The emotionally charged belief typically wins in the manifestation hierarchy. This explains why many people's conscious affirmations seem ineffective against their lived experience. The breakthrough comes when you recognize that identifying these counter-intentions is the first step toward harmonizing your entire being with your true desires. This internal alignment creates what spiritual teachers call congruence, when your conscious wishes, subconscious beliefs, spoken words, and emotional states all point in the same direction. When you achieve this alignment, manifestation becomes not only possible, but inevitable. I've seen people dramatically transform their circumstances, not by learning new manifestation techniques, but simply by eliminating the contradictory prayers they were unconsciously sending. The revelation that we might be praying against ourselves can be jarring, but it also empowers us with unprecedented agency over our life experience. If you're resonating with this illumination about how you might be unconsciously creating your reality, write in the comments, "I'm taking back my prayer power." This acknowledgement alone can begin shifting your awareness in powerful ways. Transforming our personal reality begins with something so simple yet profound, declaring words of positivity over our circumstances. When you speak positivity into existence, you're not just repeating empty affirmations, you're aligning your consciousness with divine principles that govern our universe. Think about it. The universal intelligence that formed galaxies and designed the intricate balance of life doesn't operate from a mindset of lack, limitation, or negativity. I've observed in my own journey that the moment I declare something as true in the spiritual realm, even when physical evidence contradicts it, something shifts in the atmosphere around me. It's that powerful bridge between the unseen world of potential and our physical reality. When you state, "I am whole, I am abundant," or "I am guided," you're not lying to yourself. You're acknowledging a spiritual truth that exists beyond temporary circumstances. This realignment happens instantly. The moment your words align with divine principles, you've positioned yourself in harmony with the creative force that sustains existence. The manifestation may take time in the physical world, but the spiritual realignment is immediate. It's like turning a ship. The decision to change direction happens in an instant, even if completing the turn requires time. Now here's where most people stumble on their manifestation journey. They base their faith in outcomes on what they can see and touch. But authentic spiritual faith operates from an entirely different dimension. It doesn't depend on material conditions, but on mental acceptance of divine good. This represents a radical departure from our conditioned thinking. When you truly understand this principle, you'll realize that waiting for conditions to improve before believing is backward thinking. The mindset shift occurs when you accept that divine good is already established in the spiritual realm, and your acceptance of this truth is what allows it to materialize in your experience. Your faith isn't creating the good, it's allowing what already exists in potential form to emerge into your reality. I remember working with someone who was experiencing severe financial hardship. Instead of focusing on the empty bank account, we practiced affirming, "Divine abundance flows to me and through me now." At first, it felt like a mockery of his situation, but he committed to holding this truth in consciousness despite external evidence. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities began appearing, not because the affirmation created them, but because his shifted consciousness allowed him to perceive and receive what was already available. The hidden revelation here is that divine good doesn't need to be created. It needs to be accepted. This acceptance happens in the mind first, regardless of physical circumstances. When you make this profound mental shift, you're not changing God or the universe. You're changing your relationship to the infinite supply that has always been present. Consider the oxygen in the air around you. You don't need to create oxygen. You simply need to breathe it in. Similarly, spiritual prosperity, health, and harmony don't need to be created. They need to be mentally acknowledged and accepted. Your circumstances might suggest scarcity, but the spiritual reality is always one of abundance, and that reality becomes your experience when you align with it in consciousness. This is why the most powerful prayers aren't requests for things to change, but declarations that acknowledge the truth already established in divine mind. Your words create a vessel to receive what already exists in potential form. Your acceptance becomes the channel through which invisible good becomes visible experience. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic and explore how this principle transforms not just individual circumstances, but entire life trajectories. If you're finding these ideas resonate with your own spiritual understanding, write in the comments. This principle is transforming my perspective. When you pray, there's a profound shift that happens within your consciousness. It's not about asking or pleading, it's about creating with authority. Think of yourself as a co-creator with the universe, declaring what needs to manifest with absolute certainty. The masters throughout history understood that genuine prayer is an affirmation of what already exists in the spiritual realm before it materializes in our physical reality. Many of us get caught in the trap of needing physical evidence before we believe. But that's backward thinking that limits your manifestation abilities. True faith operates in the unseen realm first. When you pray with this understanding, you're not anxiously looking for signs or validation. You're declaring truth with unwavering confidence, knowing that manifestation follows belief, not the other way around. This leads us to a transformational concept that few truly grasp. The power of mental seeds. Your thoughts are like seeds planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. When you plant these seeds, through faith-filled declarations and maintain absolute clarity about what you desire, you're activating forces beyond your conscious awareness. Your subconscious doesn't question or doubt. It simply accepts what you feed it and begins orchestrating circumstances to match that internal programming. The beauty of this process is that it doesn't require external manipulation or constant effort. Once properly planted, these thought seeds grow naturally while you sleep, while you work, while you live your life. This is the hidden truth behind why some people seem to effortlessly manifest their desires while others struggle despite working harder. I've witnessed countless stories of people who transformed their circumstances not by changing their external actions first, but by changing their internal landscape. There was a woman who had been struggling with chronic illness for years, visiting doctor after doctor with little improvement. When she began practicing declaration-based prayer and mentally seeing herself as already healed, her body began responding in ways medical professionals couldn't explain. This isn't magical thinking, it's understanding the bridge between consciousness and reality. Your subconscious mind is constantly influencing your nervous system, your hormones, your immune response, and even the energy you project to others. When you plant clarity and certainty there, you've changed the foundation from which all your experiences grow. What fascinates me about this approach is how it bypasses the logical mind's limitations. Your conscious mind can only focus on a limited number of variables at once, but your subconscious is processing millions of data points simultaneously. When you surrender your desires to this deeper intelligence through faith-filled prayer, you're engaging a power that can orchestrate far more complex arrangements than your analytical thinking ever could. The key is maintaining crystal clarity about what you're creating while releasing attachment to how it manifests. Too many people sabotage their manifestations by trying to micromanage the process, telling the universe exactly how things should unfold. True masters of manifestation understand that your job is to hold the vision with unwavering faith while allowing infinite intelligence to determine the path of least resistance to your desire. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what actually happens when we align our conscious intentions with our subconscious programming. There's a fascinating neurological component to this process that explains why some prayers seem to manifest instantly, while others take time or don't materialize at all. The difference lies in, if you're following along and these concepts are clicking into place for you, write down in the comments, "Seeds of faith now planted." When we dig deeper into the mechanics of manifestation, one truth becomes unavoidable. The subconscious mind thrives on consistency. This isn't just about occasional positive thoughts. It's about creating a mental environment where your desires can take root and flourish. The subconscious behaves much like fertile soil. You can't plant seeds today, dig them up tomorrow to check on them, then expect a bountiful harvest. This is where many spiritual practitioners encounter their first major roadblock. They affirm their desires during morning meditation, then spend the rest of the day worrying about bills, dwelling on past failures, or imagining worst-case scenarios. What they don't realize is that this mental contradiction creates a spiritual stalemate. Your subconscious doesn't differentiate between what you fear and what you want. It simply responds to the images and emotions you consistently feed it. The journey toward manifestation requires emotional alignment. Think about it. When you truly believe something will happen, you feel a sense of calm certainty. There's no anxiety, no desperate pleading, just a quiet knowing. This emotional state is the hidden catalyst that transforms thoughts into reality. Unfortunately, many of us have been programmed with patterns of doubt and fear since childhood, creating an internal resistance that silently sabotages our manifestations. Take prayer, for example. Many people approach prayer as a form of desperate petition, begging for intervention while internally doubting whether they'll be heard. This contradiction, asking while doubting, creates a spiritual short circuit. The universe doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your dominant emotional state and deepest beliefs. This explains why some prayers seem to go unanswered. They're being undermined by the very person who offered them. The transformation begins when you realize that manifestation isn't about forcing change through sheer willpower. It's about aligning your conscious requests with your subconscious beliefs until they move in harmony. This alignment creates a powerful resonance that naturally attracts corresponding circumstances into your life. I've witnessed this principle at work countless times in my own journey. Years ago, I struggled with financial insecurity despite constantly affirming abundance. My breakthrough came when I realized I was affirming wealth with my words while internally preparing for poverty. My subconscious was responding not to my affirmations, but to my deeper fears. The revelation that changed everything was understanding that the subconscious mind processes imagery more powerfully than words. When you vividly imagine yourself already experiencing your desire, feeling the emotions, seeing the details, immersing yourself in that reality, you speak to your subconscious in its native language. This imaginal act becomes a blueprint that your deeper mind works tirelessly to manifest. Consider how athletes use visualization to improve performance. They don't just think about success, they mentally rehearse every movement, feeling the exhilaration of victory before they ever step onto the field. By the time they compete, their subconscious has already experienced success countless times. This mental rehearsal creates neural pathways that facilitate actual performance. You can apply this same principle to any aspect of life. Instead of affirming, "I am wealthy," while feeling poor, spend time each day experiencing the sensations of financial freedom in your imagination. Feel the relief, the security, the expansiveness. Let these emotions saturate your being until they begin to feel more real than your current circumstances. Now, I want to go even deeper into the practical application of these principles by exploring how to systematically reprogram your subconscious mind for manifestation success. The internal dialogue you maintain throughout your day creates the framework for everything you experience. When you understand how to consciously direct this dialogue, you gain access to manifestation abilities you never knew you possessed. If this information is giving you clarity about why your manifestations haven't been consistent, write mental alignment in the comments below. When we carefully observe our thought patterns, we often discover an internal battle consuming our mental energy. Many of us spend years feeding conflicting thoughts, wanting success while simultaneously fearing failure, desiring health while focusing on symptoms, or craving abundance while fixating on scarcity. This mental tug-of-war depletes the very energy needed to manifest our desires. The true transformation begins when we recognize these opposing thought patterns and deliberately replace them with consistent, aligned affirmations. Think of your mind as a garden. You can't grow roses and weeds in the same spot. One must be removed for the other to flourish. This isn't just positive thinking, it's a deliberate recalibration of your mental environment. What makes this approach powerful is how it collects and focuses your previously scattered mental energy. When your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs align toward a single outcome, you create what some practitioners call a resonant field, a concentrated mental state that directly influences your experience of reality. Consider how differently you move through the world when your entire being is aligned with confidence versus divided by doubt. The energy you project, the opportunities you notice, and the decisions you make shift dramatically. This unified mental stance creates a momentum that seemingly bends circumstances in your favor. The hidden truth many miss is that effective affirmative prayer isn't a sporadic practice, but a constant declaration through both images and words. Many attempt this work inconsistently, wondering why results don't appear. It's like trying to boil water by placing it on the stove for 30 seconds every few hours. The temperature never reaches the necessary threshold for transformation. Daily practice means maintaining unwavering mental images that correspond with your desires, not just during formal meditation, but throughout your day. When counterproductive thoughts arise, and they will, your practice involves gently but firmly redirecting your attention to your chosen vision. This isn't about forcing thoughts away, but rather consistently choosing which thoughts to nurture. The words you use, both internally and verbally, must mirror these images. Speaking one thing while visualizing another creates the very division that prevents manifestation. This alignment between word and image creates a psychological integrity that resonates through every aspect of your being. What's fascinating about this journey is how it gradually shifts from conscious effort to subconscious habit. Initially, you'll need to catch yourself frequently drifting into old thought patterns. With persistence, your mind begins automatically redirecting toward your preferred vision without conscious intervention. This is when the real magic happens, when your subconscious mind fully embraces the new pattern and works tirelessly to align your reality with it. The most profound aspect of this practice isn't just what it brings into your life, but how it transforms your relationship with yourself. There's an inner peace that comes from resolving the mental conflicts that once drained your energy. Many practitioners report feeling more centered, more authentic, and more present, benefits that extend far beyond specific manifestations. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this mental alignment creates ripple effects throughout your life, influencing not just your thoughts, but your actions, relationships, and even how others respond to you. This understanding reveals why some people seem to effortlessly attract opportunities, while others struggle despite similar external circumstances. If you're recognizing patterns in your own thinking that might be creating division rather than alignment, write in the comments, "I'm ready for mental clarity, so I know this is resonating with you." The profound nature of prayer becomes even more fascinating when we understand the mental mechanics behind it. What happens in those moments when we truly connect through prayer is nothing short of transformational. The subconscious mind, receptive and fertile, accepts the seeds of healing imagery we plant during focused prayer. This isn't merely philosophical, it's a practical application of mental discipline that creates tangible results in our external reality. Think about this transformation as a gardener would. You don't plant seeds and then dig them up every day to check if they're growing. Similarly, effective prayer requires planting the mental image of recovery and then allowing it to take root without constant disturbance. This patient persistence is where many of us stumble in our healing journey. We pray for health while simultaneously reinforcing illness through worry and negative self-talk, essentially pulling up our seedlings before they have a chance to grow. The law of thought operates with the same reliability as any natural law. Just as gravity doesn't decide whether or not to work on a particular day, the principles governing our mental realm function with absolute consistency. When we understand this hidden truth, we realize the immense responsibility we have in maintaining disciplined thought patterns. The harvest of our life experience directly reflects the seeds we've consistently planted in our mental garden. I've witnessed remarkable recoveries that medical science couldn't fully explain, where individuals maintained unwavering faith in their healing. They didn't just hope for improvement, they lived as though the healing had already occurred, experiencing it vividly in their mind's eye. This profound inner certainty created a blueprint that their physical body gradually aligned with. What's particularly revealing about this process is how it illuminates our own contradictory mental habits. Many of us pray for abundance while maintaining a poverty mindset, or seek loving relationships while harboring thoughts of unworthiness. The impact of these contradictions creates the mixed results we often experience. Moments of breakthrough followed by frustrating setbacks. Consistency becomes the master key. When you plant corn, you expect corn, not wheat or barley. Similarly, when you consistently plant thoughts of health, confidence, and abundance, these manifest in your experience with the same natural certainty. This requires vigilance over your mental landscape, especially during those vulnerable moments when habitual worry tries to reassert itself. The revelations of quantum physics continue to support what spiritual teachers have claimed for millennia, that consciousness influences physical reality in profound ways. When we maintain consistent mental pictures, we're not just engaging in wishful thinking, we're participating in the fundamental creative process of the universe. This behind-the-scenes influence of mind over matter represents one of the most powerful tools available to us. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining how we can practically apply this understanding to accelerate our healing journey. The mind-body connection operates through specific channels that, once understood, can be deliberately engaged to promote wellness at every level of our being. If this perspective on prayer and healing resonates with your experience or feels intuitively right to you, write "Mental seeds grow physical realities" in the comments below. Prayer isn't a magical formula to manipulate reality according to our whims. Rather, it's a powerful practice that helps shape and manifest the divine good that was first conceived in the spiritual realm. When we pray with this understanding, we align ourselves with the creative process that's already in motion, rather than trying to force our own agenda onto the universe. Think about it. Prayer becomes most effective when it flows from openness to divine wisdom, rather than from our limited personal perspective. The transformation happens when we surrender our ego-driven plans and open ourselves to something greater. This mindset shift completely changes what we're doing when we pray. Let's examine the stark contrast between prayers that stem from ego desires versus those that emerge from a Christ-like divine center within us. When prayer originates from ego, it tends to focus on what we think we want or need based on our limited understanding. These prayers often come from a place of fear, lack, or control. Give me this job, make this person love me, fix this problem my way. But there's a profound revelation when we consider prayers that flow from our divine center, that Christ, consciousness within, that yearns for truth above all else. These prayers align with universal principles and often sound more like, reveal what serves the highest good. Help me see this situation with clarity. Guide me to be an instrument of love in this circumstance. The hidden truth here is that the source of our prayers determines their power. When we pray from our divine center, we're not just asking for things to change around us. We're inviting deep inner transformation that ultimately impacts everything in our experience. This journey of shifting our prayer consciousness isn't always comfortable. It requires us to surrender cherished beliefs about how life should unfold. It asks us to release our grip on outcomes and trust a wisdom greater than our own. Behind the scenes of effective prayer is this ongoing surrender, a willingness to let go of what we think we know in favor of what the divine knows is best. As we develop this Christ-like center within, our prayers naturally change. They become less about fixing external circumstances and more about aligning with divine purpose. We discover that the most powerful prayer states aren't about changing God's mind about our situation, but allowing God to change our mind about what's truly needed. Now, I want to go even deeper into this understanding of prayer as we explore how this approach transforms not just our prayer life, but our entire relationship with reality. The connections between our consciousness, our prayers, and manifestation in the physical world reveal patterns that have been obscured by conventional religious teaching for centuries. What revelations have you personally experienced when shifting from ego-based prayer to more spiritually centered communion with the divine? Write in the comments, "My Prayer Evolution," if you've noticed your own approach to prayer transforming over time. When we approach prayer from this deeper understanding, something remarkable happens. Our prayers become less about what we want to get and more about what we can express. This purification of desire is the hidden transformation many spiritual seekers discover on their journey. I've witnessed people who started with prayers full of desperate pleas for specific outcomes gradually shift toward prayers of alignment and expression. Their prayers evolved from, "God, give me this job," to, "May I express my highest gifts wherever I serve." This evolution isn't just semantics. It represents a profound shift in consciousness. True prayer purifies our desires by elevating them beyond the superficial wants of the personality to the deeper expression of divine goodness that seeks to flow through us. When we pray from this place, we're no longer begging an external deity for favors. Instead, we're tuning our awareness to the frequency of our higher nature, allowing it to guide our expressions in the world. Think of it like this: the universe isn't withholding your good until you say the right words in prayer. Rather, prayer helps you become receptive to the infinite good already trying to express through you. It's less about convincing God to give you something and more about removing the inner obstacles, preventing you from experiencing what's already yours by divine right. The distinction between ego-based desires and soul-aligned desires becomes crucial in this context. When desires arise from the ego's sense of lack or separation, they construct invisible walls between ourselves and others. I've seen relationships crumble because one person's prayers were essentially demands that others conform to their expectations. These prayers, though they might use spiritual language, remain rooted in control and fear. Contrast this with desires that emerge from our inner divinity. These create bridges of peace and understanding. They align naturally with universal law because they spring from the same source that established those laws. A friend once told me about praying for guidance regarding a difficult colleague. Instead of praying that the colleague would change or leave, she prayed to see the situation through eyes of compassion. The shift in her perception created a breakthrough that no amount of external manipulation could have achieved. This reveals one of the most profound insights about effective prayer. It works primarily by changing us from within. The outer circumstances often reflect this inner shift, but the true miracle happens in consciousness. First, when we align our desires with the highest good for all concerned, we participate in a sacred collaboration with the intelligence of the universe. Now, I want to go even deeper into this often overlooked aspect of prayer, how it relates to the way we perceive reality itself and shapes our daily experiences beyond spiritual practice. The prayer state doesn't need to be confined to formal moments of devotion, but can become an ongoing relationship with life that transforms every interaction. The fascinating thing about desires rooted in our spiritual nature is how they naturally harmonize with universal law. They don't require force or manipulation because they move with the current of life rather than against it. Think about times when you felt absolutely certain about a decision, not because you calculated all outcomes, but because something deeper than thought guided you. That inner knowing represents alignment between your individual awareness and universal wisdom. When we pray, from this aligned state, we're not trying to bend reality to our will. We're surfing the waves of what's trying to emerge through us. It's like the difference between pushing a boulder uphill and steering a boat that's already carried by a powerful current. Both require effort, but one works with existing forces while the other works against them. If you've experienced this shift in your own prayer practice, put "alignment awakened" in the comments. I'd love to hear about the moment you realized prayer was less about getting and more about becoming. And remember when I said that reframing our desires is the beginning of a true spiritual transformation? Well, there's more to uncover about how we communicate with the universe. Traditional prayer often comes from a place of lack. We're essentially telling the universe, "I don't have this. Please give it to me." But what if we shifted this approach entirely? Instead of ego-centered prayers that emphasize what's missing, try gratitude-centered acknowledgements that affirm what already exists in potential form. When you say, "Thank you for bringing this opportunity into my life," before it physically manifests, you're not just being optimistic, you're aligning with the universe's abundant nature. This subtle shift creates a profound energetic difference. It's like the difference between knocking on a door repeatedly, desperately hoping someone will answer, versus walking up to the door with the quiet confidence of someone who already has the key. The universe responds differently to these energetic signatures. I've noticed in my own journey that whenever I approach manifestation from gratitude rather than need, the results come with remarkable smoothness. It's as if the universe says, "Finally, someone who understands how this works." The resistance melts away, and synchronicities begin to appear almost effortlessly. This brings us to an essential revelation many spiritual seekers miss. Our desires themselves are divine expressions. Many traditions incorrectly teach us that desires are somehow impure, or that wanting things is spiritually inferior. This misunderstanding has created unnecessary suffering and spiritual guilt for countless people. The truth: your desires are legitimate cosmic impulses flowing through you. When you recognize and claim them as rightful divine expressions rather than something to be ashamed of, you empower consistent, positive outcomes in your life. Your desires are not random. They're specifically coded messages from the universe about your potential path. Think about that for a moment. What if every authentic desire you've ever had wasn't a test of your spiritual resolve to resist it, but rather a cosmic invitation to expand into new territory? This perspective completely transforms how we relate to what we want. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how these principles apply in everyday moments of decision-making. The small choices we make hourly often seem disconnected from our spiritual practice, but they actually represent the most powerful opportunities for alignment. Consider how you respond when unexpected expenses arise. Do you immediately contract into fear, or can you maintain that inner peace we discussed? The real mastery isn't just about handling the big spiritual concepts. It's about bringing this wisdom into the mundane moments that make up most of our lives. When we can maintain our center during ordinary challenges, we're demonstrating genuine spiritual integration. It's one thing to feel connected during meditation, it's another entirely to maintain that connection when your car breaks down or when a relationship becomes challenging. This integration process requires patience with yourself. Many of us expect instant transformation, but the journey unfolds in its own perfect timing. Each time you catch yourself reverting to old patterns and consciously choose differently, you're rewiring neural pathways and energetic patterns that have likely been in place for decades. The most powerful revelation I've found is that this work is less about forcing change and more about allowing your natural divine expression to emerge. Like clearing debris from a spring, so water can flow freely rather than trying to force water uphill. What makes this approach so revolutionary is that it works regardless of your specific spiritual background or beliefs. The principles themselves transcend any particular tradition while honoring the wisdom inherent in all of them. The universe doesn't care what you call it, only that you align with its fundamental principles. If any of this resonates with your experience, drop divine alignment in the comments below. I'm curious how many of you have already been intuitively working with these principles without perhaps having the language for them until now. Let's dive deeper into how our subconscious mind processes information. When we talk about emotionally charged affirmations, we're touching on a fundamental truth about human transformation. Your subconscious doesn't just accept any statement you repeat. It requires emotional resonance. Think of your subconscious as a sophisticated filter that's primarily influenced by feelings rather than logic. This is why simply repeating affirmations mechanically often falls flat. The secret lies in infusing your words with genuine emotion. When you state, "I am abundant," while feeling deeply connected to that truth, your internal landscape begins to shift. The emotion becomes the bridge between your conscious intention and your subconscious acceptance. It's fascinating how this hidden truth remains overlooked in many personal development approaches. Now, regarding scientific prayer technique, this isn't about religious dogma, but rather a systematic approach to reprogramming your mind. The sequence of recognition, unification, affirmation, gratitude, and liberation creates a powerful mental formula that aligns your conscious and subconscious forces. Let me break this down in a way that reveals its practical application. First, recognition means acknowledging the infinite intelligence within and around you. This establishes your connection to something greater than yourself. Then, unification involves feeling one with the solution you seek, dissolving the perceived separation between you and your desire. The affirmation step is where you state with conviction what you know to be true, not what you wish were true. This distinction makes all the difference in your mental journey. Following this, gratitude acts as a powerful catalyst. When you feel thankful for something as if it's already happened, you create a unique neurological pattern that primes your brain for receiving. This isn't just spiritual talk. Scientific research increasingly shows how gratitude actually rewires neural pathways and influences how we perceive opportunities. Finally, liberation means releasing your request completely, trusting in the process without anxious attachment to outcomes. This final step is perhaps the most challenging for many because it requires surrendering control while maintaining complete faith. The paradox here is profound. By letting go, you actually accelerate manifestation. What's particularly revelatory about this sequence is how it mirrors the way successful people naturally think. Whether they know it or not, those who consistently achieve their goals often follow this exact mental pattern. They recognize possibility, unify with their vision, affirm their path forward, express gratitude for what's coming, and detach from desperate need for specific results. I want to emphasize that this approach works regardless of your belief system. The subconscious mind responds to this protocol because it aligns with psychological principles, not because it requires any specific spiritual orientation. This makes it universally applicable across cultural and religious boundaries. The impact of implementing this consistently can be transformative. When you align your conscious thoughts with emotionally resonant affirmations and follow the scientific prayer technique, you're essentially reprogramming your mental operating system. You're creating new neural pathways that support your desired outcomes rather than sabotaging them. I've witnessed remarkable shifts in people's lives when they apply these principles with sincerity and persistence. From healing relationships to manifesting career opportunities, the applications are limitless because they work with fundamental mental processes rather than superficial techniques. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining how these principles can be applied specifically to overcome limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. The journey from intellectual understanding to embodied wisdom requires some specific approaches that few people talk about. If you're resonating with these concepts and finding value in understanding the mechanics of mind, write in the comments, "My mind is my most powerful tool." When we encounter mental obstacles on our spiritual path, it's like having rocks on a hiking trail. These boulders of doubt, fear, or limiting beliefs don't just appear randomly. They've often been placed there through years of conditioning and experiences that shaped our perception of reality. The transformative power comes when we learn to identify these obstacles for what they truly are, temporary misconceptions rather than permanent fixtures of our consciousness. I've noticed in my own journey that these mental barriers often disguise themselves as rational thoughts. "I'm not worthy of abundance" might dress up as "I'm just being realistic about my finances." "I can't heal" might masquerade as "I'm just accepting my medical diagnosis." The revelation comes when we realize we can replace these thoughts with ones centered in spiritual truth, not as wishful thinking, but as alignment with a deeper reality that transcends our limited perceptions. This clearing process isn't just psychological, it's profoundly spiritual. When you remove these mental obstacles, you're not just changing your mind, you're allowing your consciousness to function as it was originally designed. It's like clearing dust from a perfectly good mirror. The mirror wasn't broken, it just couldn't reflect clearly with all that accumulated debris. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what happens during our greatest trials. There's something remarkably powerful about prayer during chaos that even science is beginning to acknowledge. When we find ourselves in situations that seem utterly disordered, whether a health crisis, financial collapse, or relationship breakdown, prayer offers something beyond mere comfort. It actually elevates our consciousness above the apparent chaos to a viewpoint where divine order becomes perceivable. Think of it as gaining altitude during a storm. From the ground, all you can see is the turbulence and danger, but rise above it in an aircraft, and suddenly you're looking down at the weather pattern from a place of clarity and peaceful perspective. This elevation of consciousness doesn't deny the reality of the storm, but it positions you to navigate through it with wisdom rather than panic. What's particularly fascinating is the behind-the-scenes transformation that occurs during this process. Your brain waves actually shift. Your nervous system calms. Your immune system strengthens. These aren't just spiritual claims. They're documented physiological responses to genuine prayer and meditation. The hidden truth here is that prayer isn't just about asking for external circumstances to change. It's about activating an internal alignment that allows you to perceive and participate in the divine order that was always present beneath the apparent chaos. I've witnessed people face terminal diagnoses, bankruptcy, betrayal, situations where there seemed to be no possible good outcome, yet through this elevation of consciousness, they discovered pathways through their challenges that were previously invisible. Not because they denied reality, but because they accessed a higher reality that contained solutions their limited perspective couldn't initially see. This mindset shift represents one of the most profound revelations available to us as spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not meant to be victims of circumstance, but conscious co-creators who can rise above the appearance of disorder to align with a higher pattern of meaning and purpose. If what I'm sharing resonates with your own experiences of finding clarity during difficult times, write in the comments, "I've glimpsed the order above the chaos." I'd love to hear about your own revelations in those moments when your consciousness elevated beyond what was happening around you. The spiritual journey often reveals its most profound lessons during our darkest moments. When we face trials, there's a powerful truth that many miss. These challenges aren't evidence of God's absence, but rather opportunities for deeper connection. Think about it. When everything flows smoothly, we rarely tap into our deepest spiritual resources. But when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles, something remarkable happens in that sacred space of surrender. The principle here is transformative. God remains present even in our trials, perhaps especially so. This isn't just spiritual theory, it's practical wisdom that changes how we navigate difficulties. When you're facing something that seems impossible to overcome, that's precisely when deep prayer becomes not just comforting, but revolutionary. This kind of prayer isn't desperate pleading, it's a calm affirmation of truth that establishes your dominance over fear. I've witnessed countless people shift their entire reality by understanding this hidden truth. Rather than being crushed by circumstances, they've learned to stand firm in spiritual awareness, recognizing that external situations hold no real power over their inner connection to divine support. This subtle shift in perspective creates ripples that extend far beyond the immediate challenge. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining how this understanding transforms our approach to prosperity. Many prosperity prayers miss the mark because they originate from a consciousness of lack. Have you noticed how anxious energy often underlies our requests for financial abundance? This anxious prayer actually reinforces the very condition we're trying to overcome. The revelation that changed everything for me was understanding that true prosperity prayer isn't about begging for resources we don't have. It's about aligning with the ever-present divine supply that already exists. When we pray from a place of acknowledging abundance rather than focusing on its absence, we position ourselves differently in relation to universal principles. This involves a fundamental mindset revolution. Instead of approaching prosperity with anxiety-driven demands, effective prayer establishes harmony with universal laws of supply. It's like tuning your radio to the right frequency. The broadcast was always there, but you weren't receiving it clearly. The impact of this understanding extends beyond material concerns into your entire relationship with life. People who master this approach develop a remarkable resilience that others notice. They maintain inner peace even when external circumstances haven't yet changed, because they've accessed an unshakable awareness of being supported by something greater than themselves. What fascinates me about this journey is how it transforms not just our language, but our entire energetic signature. When you sit in quiet contemplation, affirming abundance rather than pleading from lack, you're doing something profoundly powerful. You're aligning your consciousness with the very nature of universe itself. There's a beautiful paradox here. By releasing our tight grip on outcomes and affirming what already exists rather than what seems missing, we actually accelerate manifestation. This isn't magical thinking. It's working with subtle laws that govern consciousness and reality. The most successful practitioners of prosperity prayer aren't focused on getting something they lack. They're focused on recognizing and expressing gratitude for the perfect, complete supply that already exists. This shift represents one of the most significant turning points in spiritual development, moving from prayer as desperate pleading to prayer as calm acknowledgement changes everything, not just results, but your entire experience of life's journey. Even before external circumstances shift, you experience the peace that comes with knowing you're connected to an infinite source. If what I'm sharing resonates with your own experience, or something you've been discovering on your path, write "abundance already exists" in the comments below. Now let's explore how this understanding plays out in everyday decisions and practical application. One of the most transformative realizations in spiritual practice is understanding what true healing actually means. When we face physical challenges or illness, many of us immediately focus solely on the body. But authentic healing prayer operates from a much deeper premise, that health is fundamentally about restoring the soul to its original divine alignment. This perspective creates a complete paradigm shift in how we approach well-being. Think about it this way: what we call disease or illness often stems from misconceptions about our true nature. The physical symptoms we experience are merely expressions of a deeper disharmony. When we direct our prayer toward recognizing the perfect, divine template that already exists within us, we're not actually fixing anything. We're remembering and realigning with what's already there, beneath the appearance of disorder. This is the hidden truth behind many seemingly miraculous healings throughout history. The prayer wasn't creating something new. It was removing the mental and spiritual barriers that prevented the expression of the divine pattern already present. It's like clearing away clouds to reveal the sun that was shining all along. What makes this approach so powerful is that it doesn't fight against symptoms or struggle with physical conditions. Instead, it gently dissolves the misconceptions that created the appearance of disease in the first place. This is why truly effective healing prayers don't beg or plead for health. They affirm and acknowledge the perfect wholeness that exists beyond physical appearances. The journey toward implementing this understanding requires patience. Most of us have spent decades identifying strongly with our physical bodies and their limitations. Shifting to see ourselves primarily as spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience doesn't happen overnight, but even small steps in this direction can begin producing remarkable changes in our experience of health and vitality. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring another crucial element: the power of pre-sleep prayer and affirmation. This practice represents one of the most underutilized opportunities for spiritual growth and healing. The moments just before sleep hold extraordinary potential. During this twilight state between wakefulness and sleep, our conscious mind begins to step aside, allowing direct access to the subconscious. This is significant because our subconscious mind is the repository of our deepest beliefs and the engine that ultimately manifests our experiences. When we consciously direct our thoughts towards spiritual truth during these precious pre-sleep moments, we're essentially programming our subconscious with the highest understanding available to us. This is why many spiritual traditions across cultures have emphasized bedtime prayer or meditation. They recognize this unique window of opportunity for deep reprogramming. The quality of consciousness we maintain during these moments profoundly influences not only our sleep quality, but also how our day unfolds when we awaken. Those who practice pre-sleep spiritual affirmation often report more peaceful sleep, fewer disturbing dreams, and waking with a sense of centered calm that persists throughout the day. This practice becomes especially powerful when combined with the understanding of true healing we discussed earlier. As you drift towards sleep, affirming your spiritual completeness and divine perfection plants these concepts deeply in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. From there, they can begin to manifest as your lived reality, often in ways that seem miraculous from an ordinary perspective. The best part about this practice is its simplicity. It doesn't require special equipment, extensive training, or hours of dedicated time. Just a few minutes of focused spiritual contemplation before sleep can initiate profound shifts in consciousness that ripple throughout your entire life experience. If you're resonating with these ideas about true healing and pre-sleep spiritual practice, write in the comments, "I'm reclaiming my divine blueprint." I'd love to know how many of you are exploring these deeper dimensions of spiritual healing in your own lives. The journey we've taken together through understanding true healing has been about recognizing something profound, that wholeness isn't something we need to create, but rather remember. When we approach prayer and healing from this perspective, everything transforms. We're no longer desperately trying to fix what's broken, but instead gently removing the veil that obscures the perfection that's always been there. This shift in understanding, from seeing ourselves as bodies that need repair to recognizing ourselves as spiritual beings, temporarily expressing through physical form, is perhaps the most powerful medicine available to us. And by combining this awareness with intentional pre-sleep affirmation, we create a powerful pathway for this truth to sink deeply into our consciousness while we rest. If what we've explored together today has resonated with you, I invite you to begin experimenting with these practices in your own life. Start small, perhaps with just a minute or two of spiritual affirmation before sleep tonight. Notice what shifts begin to occur. If you've made it all the way through this exploration with me, leave a comment saying, "I'm reclaiming my divine blueprint." I'd love to connect with you there about your own healing journey. And if you found value in these insights, letting me know with a like helps others discover this conversation too. There's another video waiting for you that explores how to maintain this spiritual awareness during challenging times. Click through and let's continue this journey of remembrance together.